Hello, welcome to another edition of the Low Code Café. This is episode 174 for November 6, 2024. Today, our topic is newsletters, effortless publication creation. We're going to use templates and AI to create newsletters. And so we'll get into that in just a minute. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantain App, joined capably today by Patrick Anderson, Technical Success Manager for Plantain App, and we together will guide you through this. This is an event that we do every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Time. Keep saying that. It's an every other week. We do it bi-weekly, and it's just an opportunity for us to update you on what's going on with our software, do some demos, but we spend the most amount of time on hands-on low coding, and that will be true for today. We record all of these and put them on YouTube. You can get them on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/plantainapp, and look for the Low Code Cafe playlist. Our agenda today, I'm going to talk some from the trenches of support, some support topics you may need to know about, and then we'll get right on into the hands-on low coding. We do encourage you to engage with us. You can chat or enter into the question and answer section. When it's all over with, there's a feedback form that the link will be on your chat as part of that, or in the emails that we send to you. We get together again and do this in 2 weeks. So the next live webinar for Low Code Cafe will be November 20th. All right, let's dive in. Our current release is version 1.26. It was released on June 14, and we have some hot fixes for that today. We cover hot fixes week by week. I have a system that I use just to demonstrate the hot fixes, and so for those of you who have access, it's the configuration updates menu. Look for hot fixes, and then you'll see one here, but if you look at the details of it, there's actually three. So this is if you were fully patched, these are the new hot fixes since last time. So there's a few good things here. We've changed the default label position for forms. Every time you create a new form, instead of it being a label that appears, the designation was right, but it was a right aligned piece of text that was to the left of your box. Not really a great layout for most cases, so we changed that default to top. If you have existing forms, it doesn't change anything, but when you create new ones, it just starts with that. I think you've seen me for years. If you've been following along, the first thing I've ever done is change the label, change the form alignment to top. So that's going to save me some time. We have also improved the reliability for the SQL AI assistant, and I think you'll see us do that. We plan to use that some today. So better response and useful trying to develop some SQL when you're doing development. And then we also have a fix that gives some shows off some we have some hot fixes that are not showing up due to a software issue, and so we released some software to fix that. Anyway, I'm going to just install all these, and then once it's installed, you'll see that there's another hot fix that it shows up, and that's the other another connected piece to showing labels on the top. So we won't wait around for all of these to install, but when it does, there's another hot fix. That's the recommended hot fix. That's why if you're using version 126, you'll see this caution triangle that's asking you to install the recommended hotfix, and then you'll see that last one. This becomes important because you have to install all the hotfixes before you can go on to version 127, which we hope will come out. Well, we're working furiously to get it out the door, so soon. All right, so that's hotfixes. Let me put this aside. So just those are, again, recommended hotfixes. So we go on to, let's see, what else do we have here? An encouragement to engage in Low Code Campfire. This is an event that we do every Friday, except for holidays, I guess. We have some holidays coming up. But 10 a.m. Central Time, again, the same hour, we'll do Low Code Campfire. That's where we get together, talk with our community, find out what's going on with you. We solve problems in the room, as they say. And that's my password manager's crashed. That's challenging. Okay. Um, can't ever control what happens on a live webinar, I guess. Anyway, we encourage you to get involved and join us in that hour. You'll meet some great people, and you can help with solutions and get help with your issues. So, uh, great great way to spend an hour once a week. The links for this episode are our standard ones, and I think Patrick will help me get those onto the clipboard. But you can register in advance for the Low Code Campfire. You can get to our webinar recordings. You take advantage of the community portal. That's a great place to get help that's outside of our support system. The community as a whole might answer your questions, and we watch there also and answer questions. And then there's that link. You can give us feedback on the episode. All right, we saved most of our hour for hands-on low coding, and so we'll get right into publication creation. We want to leverage templates and AI to create newsletters. Now, this isn't just a random topic. This is something that we want to demonstrate to the community, but we are making a commitment to provide newsletters to you, what's going on in Plant and App. We want to do that on a regular basis. Our current goal is to do that every 2 weeks. So what we're developing will serve as somewhat of the basis for the system we're developing internally. So it's two birds, one stone. I think we're going to show off how we're doing it, and then we'll do it internally as well. But the goal is that we want to have good content. We want to collect it along the way as we're working, and then when we're ready to produce a newsletter, we'll be able to draw from that content and put it out in a nice format. So key concepts that we'll be dealing with today is content, things like articles explaining some technical topic, and then we'll be using a template, which is the format for how we will present the content to you. So it's the underlying HTML. You'll see me work with this today. I'm going to work with a very simple one, but this can get very complex and nicely formatted HTML. And then we want this functionality to be something that we can use for a number of different publications that will have editions. So our publication that we're considering, our first one, is going to be the Plant and App newsletter, but there'll be edition 1 and 2 and 3. I don't know if we'll name them or number them or whatever, but each publication will have an edition, and then this leaves open the idea that we can create other publications. So whether it's marketing materials or website content or something that we mail, we can have different publications that have editions as well, and they can all draw on the either unique content or draw on the same content. So we might do a newsletter to you telling you what's going on, but at the same time we might use that as part of a marketing piece. So that's where we're going, and that's the key concepts of what we're talking about today. So the basic formula that I'm using is that content is going to be injected into a template to come up with an edition. And so that's just kind of set the stage for what we're going to do. And so we'll start with content. What we will do in this step is we've got a Plant and App application. We're going to create a content entity, and then Plant and App has a product. We've talked about it before. It's Bazinga AI, and we're going to use that to draft some formatted outputs from raw content. So we're going to use Bazinga to help us write what we're going to put. It'll be drafts. We're going to have to adjust them, make them say what we want them to say, but using AI to do some of the work. And so we will do that using a healthcare. We'll create a sample from website content off of our website. I am going to make a copy of this so I can refer to it on my other screen here. But let's get started. So we have an empty Plantain app application. I've just installed, this is the one for episode 174, our newsletter episode. I've installed all the hotfixes. Other than that, I'm signed in as a super user, and I'm going to, it's basically an empty or a default Plantain app. As a default Plantain app, I'm going to just make a couple of changes here. The home page, which we're not going to pay too much attention to today, but I'm going to delete out this default content just so it doesn't confuse us. And so we'll close out of edit mode here. So let's get started. We have a configuration page. This is where we do all the Plantain app low coding. And the first thing that we're going to do is create this entity for content. So what's our content going to look like? Let's start that. And I'm going to get it going here. As I've mentioned, this is something that I've prepared a little bit for. So I'm going to find where I've designed this, and then we'll talk through it. So content is going to be we're going to call it content, and the plural of that is contents. So, this is something that we're going to display in our menu, and we're going to do it right on the root for this purpose. You may not want to put it there in your case, but we'll start with it there. And it's going to have some characteristics. There's really quite a few. The first one is name. So this is intended to be the name of the particular content, just a reference point. And I'm going to make that be our display name. That's the hyperlinked so that you can click in on it. The next one is going to be a description. And I'm going to make this be a large text. The next one is going to be raw content notes. This is where we're going to put, here in large text, all the stuff that we want AI to work on to generate all the other things that it can do. So one of the things it's going to generate is the title for the article. And I think it's also going to be useful if we have a subtitle, so we'll do that. And then when we're doing content, we might want a summary of our article in different formats. So for my purposes, I'm going to do a short summary, medium summary, and a long summary. And these medium and long ones might be large. Well, we'll tell you what, we'll make them all be large text so that whatever comes in will be able to be we won't overflow the size of the field. Large text, so large text all around. And then the article, the full article itself is going to be called full content, and that also will be a large text. And then we're going to have some other things that are going to be used in from a cosmetic, well, not cosmetic, hyperlinking. So we'll have link one text. That's right now I'm envisioning that there'll be one link off of an article. There might be a link off the article. And so we'll have a text, we'll have a URL. We might also have an image, and I'm calling it link one and image one, so that if we decide we want to add support for a second image or second text, we can just have image two, text two. So we'll have a URL where when you click on it, that's where the image goes, and then we'll have an image one source URL. Where does the image come from? And all those are text fields. So let me just double check that I've got these all right. And along the way, if you have questions, please let us know. And I always encourage Patrick to interrupt me if I'm skipping something here, or if something is not entirely clear. So I'm going to save this entity, and this gives us a starting spot. So we've created the content entity, and in a minute we're going to use Bazinga to draft some formatted outputs from that raw content. But let's see what we have so far. We have this content. We can link to it and open it up here. And let's, as I mentioned, I'm going to use this content from our website that we're going to use to just generate a marketing piece for healthcare or a newsletter article for healthcare. So we have the solutions healthcare section of our website. It's got a lot of content on it, and so we're going to use this content to generate some an article, a content article. I'm just going to copy all of it and add a new content. It's going to be called Healthcare Solutions. And everything that I just copied off the website, I'm just going to paste here into um, the raw content notes. And I'm just being lazy here. We could be a lot more provide a lot more content, but I'm just doing it based on what's available on the website. So when we add this, we now have a row that is our raw content. I'm going to stop and take a minute and format this a little bit better because it's very hard to see. But what we're going to, after I format it a little bit better, we'll keep the title and the subtitle, get rid of all these other fields to the right. Um, and then the idea is that we'll use Bazinga to take this raw content and generate all this other stuff. All right. So this is the contents listing, which I'm going to open up. Um, when you use just a click note here, when you're using our page builder theme, you get this gear icon, and a middle button click will open something in a new tab. So I've got this listing now open here. And so what I want to do for all of these fields, they're showing on the views, but not on the detail view. I'm going to flip that around. I'm going to say that I want it to show on the detail view, but none of the others. I'm using a keyboard shortcut to make all those go away, but you would normally just go in and click to make those changes. So I'm going to do that here. For all these fields that I don't want to have on the screen, they'll be in the detail view. Full content is going to be a HTML field. So while I'm here, I'm just going to turn on allow HTML. I'm going to get all these summaries off of the display here as well. I think I'll leave the short summary. That won't hold us up too bad. And then these raw content notes, we'll get those off the screen as well. So let's see what that does to us so far. All right, now we just have a much simpler view. We can, of course, edit it and see all those other things, but it's much simpler. And then there's a nice feature. There's a special button that you can add on the item buttons section called inline details. And so this is going to give us a button where we can see all those other things that we just put on the detail form. By default, it adds a custom detail view, which that's not what I want, but I do want a detail view. And so our detail view action just takes all the fields that are selected for detail view. We can put them in different places. I'm going to put them by default in the right sidebar. I'm going to call this details. And so now, refreshing, what we get out of that is a details button. And when we click it, all the things. So we see our raw contents. As a matter of fact, I don't even want raw contents in here anymore. We'll just leave that being in the edit. And then all of our other fields are showing down below. So one more change here on our data. row contents. I don't even want it displayed at all. So now when I use details, we just see the other things that were hidden, everything except raw contents. All right, so we have a record, we have some raw contents, and we need Bazinga to do some work for us. And so that's going to come in the form of a workflow. And I've prepared this in advance. If you licensed Bazinga, you can use any AI, of course, but we highly recommend you use Bazinga. And if you license Bazinga from us, then we would show you the details about how to construct these calls. So let's clean up here a little bit. We're going to change our focus to a workflow. I'm going to create a workflow that does the Bazinga work. The name of it is going to be use Bazinga to build content, and provide a nice description, which is that the content fields are produced from the raw content. All right, so we have the outline of this. I like to start with inputs and outputs. And so the input is going to be content. We're going to pass a content item and get Bazinga to do the work. So that is a called content of type content. The output is, at this point, is just going to be a debug output, and we'll fill in the blank here in a minute. But let's start with content name, just to show that this thing works. So when you do an input of type content, you get all the values from content provided to you automatically. So we're going to output content name, and then we'll put an end marker here just so that this meets all the requirements. It has an input and has output, and it has processing, which is no processing. So let's save and test and see how we are so far. We run it, and we get, in our debug, we get the name of the thing that we selected. So it's working. Now I noticed that since this it defaulted to going to our old view, but I want to go to our new view. This is where we're going for workflow, and so I want to work in the new view. Recommend that you use it. When you get to version 127, it will be the default. It's very, very similar, but has some new features. All right, so we need to fill in the blanks. What's Bazinga going to do? To keep things moving along, I'm going to do some copy and paste. And this first one is that this has our private API key. There's an API key token that gets created. I don't want to display it here so that I don't have to blur it out later, but our API key will be used. That gives us access to Bazinga. And then we'll do there's a next action that we'll import. And what this does is this is the special formatting that's necessary. It's creating a JSON that we can pass to Bazinga, so the Bazinga assistant knows how to take our content that we've already received here a minute ago. It has the raw content notes as the value. It's passing that as the message. It's calling a particular assistant, which is done by a GUID. It's passing the API key that I tried to hide from you a minute ago. And then the output that we want to get out of it is an object. So it's going to be a JSON object that gets returned, and all of that it gets sent to a JSON parameter. So this is setting up a nice, and actually we can demonstrate it here. No, I can't. But this is setting up what Bazinga needs to do the work. And so now I'm going to, again, continue my copy paste implementation. The next thing that we'll do is a server request to Bazinga. that's we're going to call Bazinga to get a response. We're calling this particular URL, doing a it didn't come in. I think this is going to be a get, but we'll know in just a second here. So we're calling Bazinga. We're saying that what we're sending it is a content type of JSON, and what we're going to get out is results JSON. And so I am going to use that. Again, I like to develop step by step, and so in our debug, I'm going to put this results JSON so we can test and see whether Bazinga is working. So I am going to pass it this one particular content, and it doesn't like it. Got a 404 error, and I'm guessing that's because this call is probably supposed to be a post. So let's try that instead. Now it's running. So, yep, on my original, I didn't specify it, so it must have defaulted to being a post anyway. So this is running, this is passing all of our raw content over to Bazinga, and we're going to get an output from Bazinga, which we'll interpret here in just a second. I'm pasting that into my favorite editor and now formatting it. What we get back is there's a conversation ID from Bazinga, the message ID, who we asked to get this, what model was used. So we used OpenAI GPT-4o, and then the response. This is the thing I really care about because now it's encoded in here as the JSON that has our title and our subtitle and all the things that we're going to need. So that's what we need, and so we'll continue our development. What we want to do next is to go get that use the results JSON to we're going to want, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here. We want to get that response out of this JSON, and so we're going to use a tool called parse JSON into tokens. And the JSON that we're going to do is all of that results JSON that we had. And this is going to be the, I'm going to call it CR, content results. It's just a variable to hold on to this so that we can extract it and save. So if I were to stop here, I can use instead of getting the whole thing, I can now use CR response. CR is the thing I created, and response is the item out of the JSON that I want. And so now this value CR response should have everything we need from all the different individual. It's an object that will have all the different properties that we need back that we're going to use. And so now this, let's take a look at what we did get back. That as well. So that nice assistant from Bazinga gave us from our raw content, gave us the title, subtitle, short summary, medium, long, and then a full article that has nice HTML in it. And so these things now are available, title, subtitle, all available that we can use to update our content item. And so that's what we'll do next. And that's actually the last step. So we're going to partially update content. The content that we want to change is the one that came in the first place. Say content, or we can say, be more explicit and say content ID. The default token of content returns the ID, but we'll be explicit here. And then the we're going to take we're going to set all the different things. So title is going to be, I skipped a step. There is another one that we need to do. Since we got back those tokens, there's another parse that we need to do. Parse JSON and the tokens. And that is to take that CR response and turn those into tokens. And those are going to be R. So this is the thing that's going to give us, again, we have, this is CR response. And by parsing these into tokens, we're going to get a token called R title, R subtitle, R short summary. Because we're using a base token name of R. Am I confusing anyone yet? So the now that we can do the update, we will make we'll get title out of R and put it into title, and then we'll do all these other ones. So take me just a minute here. We're going to do subtitle, short summary, medium summary, long summary, and full content. And we're going to use those same values out of our returned JSON. And so now we no longer need this debug output, and I'm going to get rid of it. But let's save and test this. We're going to run it on Healthcare Solutions and run. And if it works correctly, we should be able to browse over and see the result of this in our site. So we go to Contents, and now Healthcare has all of our titles. So it has title, subtitle, and if we look at the details, it has the medium and the long summary, and then the full content, which is nicely formatted HTML ready to use. So all these are now this content that we can pull from in what we're going to do next. Of course, I don't recommend using AI without a little bit of a review for this purposes. Today, we're going to assume that it's correct, but we'll want to, for actual publication purposes, you'd want to review that. I want to have two pieces of content, so I am going to go out to the DNN Summit website. I want to let people know that we are going to participate in DNN Summit, and I'm going to borrow the details of this so that we can use that same functionality to so our raw content is just all of that plus some words. So plant an app, something else. So this is what we want to accomplish, and here's all the background information for DNN Summit. And so I guess this is an illustration. We can create content pretty quickly. And so ideally, we would perhaps build a button. Well, let's do that. We'll build a button here to regenerate the content. So that is simply to open this listing We'll add a button to do that. Be an item button. So this is, we'll execute our workflow. Content we're going to do is this current ID because the ID is available by default on the button. And it doesn't have any outputs, but we're also going to want to refresh the data source. So once it's done, it'll update it for us automatically. So with that quick change, we now have a button that we can generate some content. So let's click it and see if it works. We could also, if we didn't like the content that the first one did, we could do it again. AI has a little bit of indefiniteness to it, so it might generate different titles, might give us something better. So we're getting a title, Join Plant and App at our summit. And if we look at the details, we can see different summaries and full content and some highlights, and the main thing, we're going to be there. So now we have two different pieces of content, and that gets us started. All right, nice. So where are we in our overview here? In our hands-on low coding, we've created content, and we were using Bazinga, and we've got a couple of samples. So now we move on to other things. As I said before, our formula is content plus templates is going to give us our edition. So the next thing we're going to move on to is templates. Templates are going to have two things. Let's see, we can close down some stuff here so that we don't get too confused. We're going to need some entities to hold our data, and so it's going to be a template, and then for templates, they're going to have components. And I'm going to start with components because that's templates are going to be comprised mostly of a list of components. I'm going to do those first so I can kind of do them all in one step. You really can't do anything in one step, but we'll give it a try. So it is a template component that we're defining, and the plural is components. And this will have the following properties. It's going to have a name, and that's going to be our hyperlink as well. It's also going to have some HTML that is defining what it's actually going to look like. And we'll make that be large text so we don't run out of room. Then I want to be able to rank them, put them in order so that contents can have some order to them. And I'm going to make that be a decimal number. And that's it. So we'll save this. And I'm going to I'm not going to dig into that quite yet because I'm going to define the template. And if this is confusing, it'll all make sense in just a second. So the next entity is a template, plural it's templates, and that's going to appear on our main page, and it's going to have the following properties. Not too complex. We're going to have a name, which is our hyperlink as well. And I'm going to have a couple of special ones here. I'm going to have a header. So our template will have one thing that goes on the very front always. And so that's going to be a large text, and a footer, something that goes on at the end always. So we'll make that be large. And then the other thing that will comprise our template is the components. And this is a list of template components, the thing we defined a minute ago. And we'll save that. I said you can't do anything in one step, and the reason I said that is I really don't. Well, let's take a look. If I look at my menu at this point, I have templates and template components, and um, template components is something we're never going to use outside of a template. So I want this to appear under templates, and so I'm going to go back in here to template components and say that the parent page really is templates, and then that'll solve that little step. So um, now we refresh, and so we have contents we did earlier. Now we have templates and their components. So let's define a template. That is, we did this, creating the entities, and we're going to create a sample template, and the one we're going to create is going to be called basic newsletter. We're going to create a template for that. And so basic newsletter, header and footer. This obviously is just placeholder stuff. We'll come back in and format it nicely someday, but this is what's going to be at the front, the back, and then here's all the components. Well, what do the components look like? We add them. And it logged me out over on the other side. Oh, didn't. Oh, wrong system. That's what happened. So we can create as many components for our for our basic newsletter as we want, and I'll just add them here. Um, if we have components from another, the add existing, I mean, we're starting out, we have nothing so far, so there's nothing to add existing. But if you wanted to share components between different kinds of things, this also sets you up to be able to do that. But we're going to add a component. The first one we're going to add is one that I'm going to call default. And this is just going to have content that looks like this. It's going to have a title. It's going to show the title. I'm using tokens here. These are the same tokens that we have from our, these names match what we have from content. So these are going to be injected into here at some point. And I'm not going to define a rank at this point. So we have one content that's just going to be the default. This becomes important because as we're doing the work of selecting content to display in the edition, we'll start by displaying it in the default and then move on to displaying it in more advanced ways. So I'm going to add another kind here that is the, I'm going to call it the title. And so I'll be able to select if I want it to show up in title format. I'll be able to choose it by name. Now, the title is a table. Again, this is very basic formatting. You'll be able to insert far more advanced formatting if you like, but we're going to put the title in an H1 tag, the subtitle, and then the full content. So this will be just one format. We can have as many formats or components as we want. Um, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but one thing that we might do in this components list is just to check the HTML box so that this displays nicely. And so we can kind of visualize what these are going to look like. So the title one is going to show up in looking like this. The default one is going to show up looking like that. All right. So this gives us our templates. We have one one template and two different types of content. We could have other types of content. For example, we could add one that shows the title and the short summary or the long summary. You would we would be able to use um, all the links and images that we added in from our content, but that's not going to get injected here. Great, let's move on. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is a nice content selection. And actually we need editions, we need publications, and so let's do a little bit more entity work. Yep, entities. So we'll create a new entity called publication. Publications, and we're going to let that be on the top level menu. And to start with, it's just going to have one property. We'll give it a name, and that'll be our display property. So now that we refresh, we have publications, and the publication that we want to do is just going to be the cafe demo. So cafe demo is going to have lots of additions. We don't have any additions yet, so let's create that piece of it too. So this is going to be another entity. And so we have additions and it's plural. And the parent for an edition is a publication, so that'll appear on the menu underneath publications. And our properties of a edition is going to be things like name, a publication date, which we will make be a date. The template that we're going to use which will be a entity of type template. So we're going to just point to what template is associated with this edition. And then the last thing, when we do the generation of, when we work through and add all the content using the components that we've made, we will have a final publication HTML. And yeah, this is it. So we will save that. Oop, the display property is name. And then the final, I need to link up my publications with my editions. And so we'll go and add another property to publications. Which will be a list of editions. All right, with those quick changes, if we now look here on our cafe demo, we now have editions and we can create an edition. And so the edition we'll be adding is something like issue number one, and let's say we're going to send it out on Friday. We're linking it to the basic newsletter template. This is going to be filled in by some processing. Now I'm looking at the clock and we're not going to get to all the processing today, but we might be able to get the content selection, and that's really where I want to go. So when we look at an issue, an edition, and issue number 1, we have the details of it. And what I want to do is to show all the content that's available and let us select from it. And so that's going to be done by adding a listing. And so let's get that done. We'll go into edit mode and add a listing to the page, which is called an action grid. And we'll drop it here on the page. And let's get it configured. The data source that we want to use is these contents. And I'm going to choose to sort them by ID in a descending order. So the most recent contents by default is going to show up on the top. We could get more sophisticated with this, but this will at least give us something to work with. And in terms of fields, I want to include some fields here. We're going to want the created date, the name, the description, the title, maybe the subtitle, maybe the short summary. So we'll add all those, and I want the created date to show up here first. So created date, name, description, title, subtitle, short summary. So these are all the things that are available to us, and I'm going to call this the available content. So when we go back and look at this, and I'm actually going to back up by going in and out and editing that, we lost our link to the edition. So I'm just going to drill down into it from the front again here, issue number 1. So now we're edition 1, and we see all of our content, all of our available content here. This isn't a very friendly way to do it. I want it as a tab here. So I'm going to edit the tab and add a new tab called available content. And choose the available content module. And so this is going to display it nicer, more nicely, in a better format. So we're drilling into our issue, our episode edition, and now we can see this is the content that's available for us to pick from. And so my direction here is we're going to add a button to say, I want this content, but not that content. And so let's get that done. Actually, we need a target for that. One more thing. Where are we going to put it? Once we select from this list of available content, what are we going to, where are we going to put it? Well, that's going to be another entity. And so we'll go back to our entities. This will be, I think, the last entity we'll create as part of this process. So this is going to be edition content. And it is the parent of this is the editions, just a place to put it in the menu. And for data, we will have an edition. So content is always going to be linked to a particular edition. It will have a name, which will also be our display name. For rank, we're going to want to put our contents in order so that the first thing comes out. We'll be able to rearrange as we look at our final output. Say we want this thing is more important, we'll move it to the top, give it a lower number. Other things will move to the bottom. And then the content that is going to every content is going to be displayed using some kind of a template component. And so that is going to be of a type template component. So now if you can imagine this, when we go from our available content and we select it, we'll create a edition content that will show this content will be displayed with this component. And I think I'm going to need a content ID. But anyway, it kind of gives us a start here. So editions will now have edition contents, and so we'll be able to drill down from use these to add to edition content. Okay, I want to leave a minute or two for questions about what we did and kind of summarize it. And obviously there'll be a part two to this presentation to actually get the newsletter published. What we did today was focused on the building blocks. We have contents, templates, and then we're starting on publications. But as we said, contents injected into templates are going to give us publications. On contents, we made an easy way to add raw information and use Bazinga to produce the information that we're going to need. And then ultimately we're going to consume, I'm sorry, we also created templates which have components. It has headers, footers, and components. And so you'll be able to use these components to provide blocks of HTML that will have we will inject the content into those blocks and assemble them into a final product that is part of the edition. Since in the last 2 minutes, and again, questions, feel free to post, but on our Plinton app website, I'm going to go back and just kind of fill in a couple of blanks that I missed when I was creating contents. We did the work of letting AI take our raw contents and make these other things, but maybe we want to fill in these links so that we'll be able to consume them, put a nice image on the page, make it clickable, put a link on the newsletter and make it clickable. So the link that we're going to want to use is this one. So we'll start filling in some of these blanks. The link will go to this URL. If they click the image, it'll also go to that same URL. The text might be out and maybe the alternate text for the image is the exact same thing. And then the source URL, the URL for this image, we'll copy that image address. We're just going to take it off our website. Has this, whatever it is, wherever it's coming from, that's going to be the image that we display. So this kind of sets us up that when we do this healthcare, when we consume this one, it'll have links and buttons and go to the right page. So that brings us to the end of our hour. Come back 2 weeks for part 2. We will show how we inject this into a use the template, create a publication edition, and it'll be ready to send out by email. Thanks for joining us. See you again in 2 weeks.